So we're another week closer to the 2025 NFL draft, which means it's time for us to go over another one of Brad Holmes's draft classes with the Detroit Lions to kind of get in the drafty spirit. Because, I mean, the draft is basically the Christmas of the offseason, right? If you're new here and you have no idea what I'm talking about, allow me to explain. So, as the draft gets closer and closer, mock drafts are a big thing, and I wanted to take a step back before doing mock drafts to look at what the Lions have done so far so we can reevaluate the types of players the Lions go for, what has and hasn't worked out, and just regrade the draft classes that this new regime has had in Detroit so that, I don't know, because it's a fun exercise. Last week, we looked at the 2021 draft class. Go watch that if you haven't already. So today, we are moving on to the 2022 class. And real quick, just before we hop into the video, make sure to hit like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any other of the videos in this series or any other uploads in general. And one note, just before we hop in, it's just important to remember the context that was surrounding this draft. So there's a few things to look at. Number one, the Lions were bad in 2021. I know, hard to believe given where we are now, but the Lions were a bad franchise and they were bad in 2021. They were starting to rebuild the culture, but we had to tear it down pretty far. It was one of the least talented teams ever. And the Lions only won 3 games. They didn't win a game until week 13 of that season, won 3 overall. They actually won 3 of their final 5, I think, which is hilarious, but not a good team. The only reason they weren't the last place team in the NFL is because they had a tie on their record, which meant the Jacksonville Jaguars slid below them in the standings. And then the other thing to remember is there was a lot of talk surrounding Jared Goff. Everyone at this point in time thought Jared Goff was a temporary solution at quarterback. Despite what the Lions told us, which is that they viewed Jared Goff as a franchise quarterback, everyone was calling BS on that. Not only was he completely thrown out of LA, Matthew Stafford comes and wins a Super Bowl there, but he was also not great in 2021, which is not a surprise. I mean, there were a lot of things working against him. For one, Anthony Lynn was the original offensive coordinator of this team, which didn't work out. And then in the second half of the year, he was better, but the Lions just didn't have a ton of weapons. Granted, they brought in Josh Reynolds, who was a waiver claim. Amon-Ra St. Brown started to break out. So there were some pieces starting to get there, but yeah, not great. So everyone was looking at the quarterback class, which was a little grim. It featured guys like Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and of course, the guy who had his draft stock the most inflated during the pre-draft process, which turned out to be complete BS, Malik Willis. Yeah, man, it was certainly a time to be alive. But then the other thing at play was there was a clear-cut number one guy in the draft. Would the Jaguars take him from the Lions? If they did, who would the Lions take? There were a lot of questions floating around. Despite having the second overall pick, it was not at all a sure thing of who Detroit was going to take. So, which direction did the Lions go? Round 1, pick 2, Aiden Hutchinson. Thanks to an otherworldly NFL combine, Trayvon Walker shot up all of the NFL draft boards, both the media boards and the actual NFL boards. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, they were enamored with the athletic upside. They took him first overall, allowing the Lions to take the hometown hero, Aiden Hutchinson, second overall. The front office was ecstatic. The fan base was ecstatic, except for Michigan State fans. It was a great time. And Hutchinson has become one of the premier edge rushers in the league. In 2023, he had over 100 pressures. I think it might have been over 110, double-digit sacks. He has 20 combined sacks in his first 2 seasons. And then in 2024, he was starting the year playing at a Defensive Player of the Year level, having 7.5 sacks in just 4.5 games. Unfortunately, in that 5th game, though, Hutchinson suffered a season-ending leg injury. He fractured his tibia and fibia with just an awkward play coming around the edge, and he clashed shins with, I think it was Aleem McNeil. His season was done in an instant, and the Lions were never able to fill the void that was remaining. Fortunately, Hutchinson is expected to be ready for mini camps in the spring, training camp, the 2025 season, all that. And he's also probably going to get a very handsome extension before that even happens. This is a slam dunk, grand slam of a pick, just like Penei Sewell to start the last draft. The Lions focus on the trenches and they get their defensive captain for a generation. This one's easy. A+. Round one, pick 12, Jameson Williams. Oh man, what a whirlwind of a pick. First of all, the Lions didn't originally have the 12th overall pick. They at first had the 32nd pick, thanks to the Rams winning the Super Bowl, and they traded up to 12th overall. And when that happened, my heart sank because that was the moment I thought they were going to take Malik Willis. And I was petrified. So petrified that I didn't even stop to consider other players that the Lions could possibly take. There was rumors about Kyle Hamilton. There was rumors about, well, a lot of things, but it was mainly quarterback. Everyone thought the Lions were going to go quarterback. And then Jameson Williams, which was a surprise. Jameson Williams was one of the best wide receiver prospects in that draft. Now, people debated at the time who was the better prospect, Jameson Williams or Garrett Wilson. I always maintained that Wilson was the better prospect, and so far he's been the better pro. But regardless, the point was the Lions had this electric wide receiver prospect that no one expected to be a Lion. The hype was immediate, and so was the criticism, because literally day one, Williams shows up to his introductory press conference with Aiden Hutchinson, and he's a little tired from the flights and the long nights and a little out of it. And that drew a ton of criticism. People saying that he didn't want to be in Detroit. Detroit wasted a pick. He's not a culture fit. All this crazy stuff, crazy talk that isn't true. But that was the perception around Williams literally immediately. And granted, it took a long time before JMO started to seriously quiet that noise. His rookie season was basically a redshirt year because he was recovering from a torn ACL suffered at the end of his college career. And so he basically didn't play. He scored a touchdown on his first career reception, which was cool, but he wasn't really used that first season. Then his second season started with a gambling suspension, not ideal. And then he struggled for probably the first half of games that he did play. It wasn't till the stretch run of 2023 and into the playoffs that he started to put things together and become more than just a deep threat. In 2024, despite another suspension for a PED violation and then this weird incident where there was an investigation into a gun being found in his car, he didn't get charged, thankfully, but the off the field stuff aside, he had a great season on the field. In the games he did play, which was 15 games, he put up over 1,000 yards receiving and scored 7 touchdowns, and he added another 60 yards and a score on the ground. He truly broke out to being the wide receiver 2 in this offense, being the second receiving threat. He even kind of usurped Sam Laporta in that aspect as Goff looked to Williams more and more. He was the ultimate big play threat and not just go deep down the field. He was able to take these shorter slanting crossing routes all the way, which we saw multiple times this season. It was fantastic. So now the question is, what comes next? Is Jameson Williams a one-year wonder, flash in the pan kind of player? We don't know. The Lions are opting to go for his 5th-year option instead of extending him right away because they want to see some consistency out of him. But Jameson Williams has been on the up and up. He has these, sky's the limit for this guy. He has a ton of potential. It's just whether or not he can put it all together. But we have to grade his whole career here. So far in his career, this is a C+. Round 2, pick 46, Josh Paschal. Now this one's a little unfortunate because I really like Paschal. He's a very solid run defender and has a couple splash plays a year where he just shoots through the entire offensive line, gets a big tackle for loss. But as a pass rusher, he just hasn't put it all together. He has good power and a good bull rush, but he doesn't really have much of a package around that. He doesn't have any counters that he sets up. He doesn't have any other moves. It's just a bull rush, and that's been rather ineffective. And he was supposed to be the bookend on the other edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. They were drafted in the same class. That was the hope and expectation. Hasn't happened so far, and now the Lions are looking to draft another edge possibly this year in 2025. So Paschal's a fine player, a legitimately good run defender, not an every down player though. So considering he was drafted in the 2nd round, I'm going to give this one a C-. Round 3, pick 97, Kerby Joseph. This was the ultimate ball of clay type pick. Joseph had a ton of athletic upside, and he showed some ability to be a deep safety in college, but he was a very raw prospect. This was a kind of pick where you throw him next to Aaron Glenn and you let Aaron Glenn mold him into something useful, hopefully, and that he did. Now, Joseph is by no means a perfect player. In fact, he actually has several deficiencies. He's not good in man coverage. He's not the best run defender. He's not the best tackler either, but he's a turnover machine, and he is already one of the premier ball hawks in the entire NFL. Unlike most of the Lions defense that are kind of more just solid, consistent players that play with minimal risk, Joseph is the ultimate boom bust type of player when he's on the field. But for every mistake he makes, maybe every lapse in coverage or missed tackle, he's usually catching an interception. He led the NFL in interceptions with 9 this past season, and he's top 3 in that category since he's come into the league in 2022. He's a very solid player, not perfect by any means, but for what he was drafted to be, he has lived up to the expectations and surpassed them probably in every single way. I will give this one a B+. Round 5, pick 177, James Mitchell. Well, not every pick works out, and unfortunately that's the case here with Mitchell, who was drafted and showed some promise in college as a legit receiving tight end option. In the NFL, it just didn't work out, at least didn't work out in Detroit. He had some flashes. He had a big touchdown in a win over Green Bay back in his rookie season, but never ascended to be anything more than the tight end 3 on the depth chart. Lions eventually move on. He only had like 141 receiving yards in 2 years and the 1 touchdown. So the Lions moved on. He's now in Carolina with the Panthers. For a 5th round pick, it's a decent dart throw, but overall just didn't work out. I'll give it a D-. Not quite a failure because, again, late round pick, but unfortunately just didn't work out. Round 6, pick 188, Malcolm Rodriguez. Everyone's favorite Cowboy, not the ones that play in Dallas, whatever. Rodrigo was immediately a training camp darling. There's a clip from Hard Knocks of Kelvin Shepherd begging the linebacker room to not have him start a 6th round rookie, which he ended up doing. He was a 6th round rookie and he earned a starting job in his rookie season. So good for him. I mean, it kind of speaks to the quality of the linebacker room at that time. And over the years, that linebacker room has gotten better. So Rodriguez has gone from a starter to an invaluable depth piece. Also a wicked special teamer and a part-time fullback, apparently. He's the ultimate Dan Campbell Lions player. He loves to hit people. He may be undersized, but he makes up for it with his competitive spirit. I'm going to give this one a B+, a super solid pick in the 6th round. Round 6, pick 217, James Houston. I talked earlier about how Jameson Williams has to prove that he's more than just a one-year wonder. That's what Houston was, or at least has been at this point in his career. So James Houston, he gets drafted, goes through his first training camp in the NFL, and pretty invisible. Not really noteworthy. The Lions were trying him at Mike linebacker. They tried to switch his position. Didn't work. So Houston was on the practice squad for most of the year. And then randomly, the Lions gave him a shot around Thanksgiving of his rookie season. And literally out of nowhere, he only played like 8 or 9 defensive snaps in this game. And he grounds Josh Allen twice for 2 sacks. Out of nowhere. And then the next week, he does it again. And then again. And then again. And then again. And again. And again. And out of nowhere, suddenly, we're going into week 18. Again, his debut was Thanksgiving of that season. And we're going into week 18, and James Houston had more sacks than Aiden Hutchinson. Now, granted, Hutch got a couple of sacks in that finale in Green Bay to save his rookie sack leader on the team. I don't know. He was to beat Houston in sacks, but James Houston showed legitimate flash and potential as a pure pass rusher that rookie season. And then, unfortunately, in 2023, significant leg injury. He missed most of that season, only appeared in 2 games. And then in 2024, it was gone. The pass rush juice that made him so special that rookie season was just gone. It's unfortunate, but is what it is. The Lions gave him ample opportunity to prove himself, both in training camp, the preseason, and just in general on the main roster. Didn't work out, and they cut their losses, and now Houston. I think he's on Cleveland's practice squad. We'll see if he can stick. I do think there's something there, but aside from a 7-game sample his rookie year, we just haven't seen it. So I'll give this one a D+, because it's not a failure. He gave you something that rookie year, but he never has been able to recapture it. I hope he does for his sake, because he was incredibly fun, but hasn't happened so far. Round 7, pick 237, Chase Lucas. Yeah, there's not much to talk about here. Lucas was an overager slot corner that the Lions drafted near the end of the draft, and just never really worked out. He had a big personality that he showcased on Hard Knocks, and he was fun to cheer for, but end of the day, just didn't play himself into a ton of reps, snaps, or opportunity in general. He played for the Lions for 2 seasons, and then he moves on, or the Lions move on. Now he's in San Francisco. Wish him the best. Didn't work out, but it's a 7th-round dart throw, so you can't really fault the Lions too much for this one. I'll give it a D. It's just the way she goes. So that's it. That's my regrading of the 2022 NFL draft, or at least the Lions 2022 NFL draft. Let me know what you thought of my grades down in the comments down below, and leave your own if you feel so inclined. I would love to hear from you guys, but that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Click like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you loved it. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.